Welcome, delegates, to our Intra-League debate here, February 2nd, 2019, here at the Stanford School of Medicine. And if you're sitting here on your Saturday morning, it is the first step in demonstrating that you care about those who, due to circumstance, cannot speak for themselves today. You all have the opportunity to change the course of the future.
Good morning, everybody. Welcome to the 2019 February LCM Intra-League Middle School Debate. Let's get a round of applause.
Here at LCM, we actually work towards a solution. What we work towards when we're developing resolutions, amendments, is that you can really leave the room at the end of the day thinking, wow, I actually made a solution to a problem that could actually be applicable in the real world. What we do here is very real world. We use real world issues, and we're not just making up things for the sake of arguing. We're talking about real life topics that actually do need solutions, and we're here to talk about the best way to do that.
So if you are, for instance, a staunchly liberal person and you're representing a Republican today, instead of feeling discouraged about that, feeling trapped, instead embrace that opportunity and look at this issue from a new side and truly get into that role and see why people with the opposite view from you have that viewpoint.
So today I'm going to urge you all to speak up, to communicate, to reach out. Not just because it is important for your skills in being able to negotiate and solve the problems that we're discussing here today, but because it is a much more broadly applicable skill.
Brilliance is found in simplicity. And that's something that I've been thinking a lot about this week, so I thought I'd just share it with you this morning and really encourage you as we begin this debate to kind of just reach inside yourself and find that simplicity wherever it lies.
And with that, we will open our Intra-League debate.
The Chinese government's abusive treatment of the Uyghurs should be condemned. The United States should shed light on those abuses. However, I'm concerned that we are taking too much of an aggressive stance and that it can hurt economic relations between us and China. And we must keep in mind that China is our largest trade partner, and we annually engage in $635.4 billion of trade with China annually.
China desires the natural resources and they want to secure their hold over Xinjiang. And we need to take strong action against that, including by sanctioning Chinese companies and so on that are involved in the genocide, and by sanctioning all products from Xinjiang.
China is stripping a religious minority of their identity by assuming all Uyghurs are guilty of terrorism. While history is repeating themselves over and over again, what is the United States doing? We are standing here doing absolutely nothing, while thousands or even millions of Turkish Muslims are held in re-education cells and stalls. Congress must take the first action in standing in solidarity against racism and discrimination in all forms.
China's treatment of the Uyghur people is absolutely abhorrent and unacceptable. This is why we must place sanctions and limit the influence of China in American markets.
Because allies are one of the most important things for a country, but people should always come first.
As Americans, we stand for freedom, for liberty, and for the freedom to practice their religion. The Uyghurs are being punished unfairly and detained for no reason. It is time that the United States takes a stand against it. It is necessary that we impose sanctions on the Chinese government, and we take any means necessary to stop this horrible treatment of people.
And when you impose sanctions broadly, you also target a particular industry. So you say we're putting sanctions on Chinese agricultural products, or dog food, or rare earth minerals, or something like that. You don't just say sanctions on China, because the Treasury Department, which is in charge of implementing sanctions, will need to know what they're actually putting taxes on, what they're putting restrictions on, what they're banning. And you can put a wholesale sanctions on a country to say anything they send we'll put sanctions on, but that is an extreme step, and you guys should know what you're doing and be very clear if that's what you actually want to do.
So we do have a bill already written, right? Which means that, like I said earlier, we're going to be doing something called amendments to this. And the way amendments look, guys, is when we start doing those, these are really short. Amendments should not be like a page long. The idea of amendments is that you can submit many small ones, and that way you'll be able to pass a lot more, or you can focus on smaller issues. Does that make sense? So this time what we're going to do is open up the speakers list to be talking about domestic protection. That's going to be the first thing we're going to be focusing on.
Domestic protection is suggested and taken action before sanctions. What this might include is sending the Red Cross in, helping people, maybe getting the UN or the EU involved to make some decisions, and being more concerned for the moral well-being of people in these re-education camps than our economical stature right now. Thank you.
And quite frankly, I think the more logical thing to do is to control the opinion of the populace, people that actually can enact change by media, by creating radio stations that broadcast to the Chinese citizens. Sending in the Red Cross is like essentially recognizing China's dictatorship, and we don't want to take those steps and damage our relations.
And domestically, if you want China to do something, you can urge them to do it. But beyond that, there's not so much you can do.
Justin Amash.
Present.
Virginia Fox.
Present.
Eleanor Norton.
Present.
Stephen Lynch. Brenda Lawrence.
Present. And it would make no sense if the government even tried to go after people who answered, no, I'm not a citizen, because there were people, green card holders, U visas, permanent residents, who are not citizens but still have a legal place in the country. And we need this data to put in the proper legislation, and we need it now.
From start to finish, this is a politically motivated move, and states are right in their mission to sue this administration, such as California and New York. The loss of congressional representation and billions of dollars in federal aid because of uncounted families that include non-citizens makes it my business to stand up against this. This question will also seem to polarize the census, which has been something that has been non-biased for every decade before. Thank you.
And the fact is, for the last decades that this current census has been being used, there have been no problems. The data coming from the census has been more or less the accuracy that the United States needs in order to appropriate the number of representatives per state.
Already, in our history, twice the government has misused the data from our census in the 9/11 and Japanese immigrants. Both of them, and why should we be trusting the government now? Donald Trump has already declared illegal immigration. He thinks it might be a state of emergency. And why would we not trust Donald Trump to misuse our data again? Thank you.
It would be completely impractical and just unsmart for them to go after people who had answered this question wrong. And they wouldn't go after them. That's not how the United States works.
This could be used to target certain groups of people by simply just saying, because mass groups of people are in particular areas, then you underfund those areas. So this can be used to target specific groups of people.
5-minute extension on the topic of the current state of affairs for the census. All those in favor of extending this caucus by 5 minutes, please raise your placard now. This motion fails. As a reminder, everyone has to vote on procedural matters.
The census results are kept confidential at all times. This means that FBI and other government entities do not have legal access to the census results. Therefore, adding a citizenship question to the census will not jeopardize the identities of illegal immigrants.
I am an Indian immigrant myself, and I wouldn't trust the government with this information.
I believe that the information that we'd be gaining from the citizenship question, the information of the demographic of whether or not we have citizens or non-citizens in specific states and areas, is much more valuable, is so valuable that it outweighs the fear that some people will not respond to the census.
And while we may say, oh, the government will not misuse this data, while we may offer these comforting promises, at the end of the day, the government may or may not, and that is not in our hands. We need to be protecting the rights of these immigrants.
My own district, California Congressional District 11, specifically the Walnut Creek area, the East Bay, when there was a survey taken, only 18% of my district believes or has faith in the government. This is not a good number, and proposing a question such as this is incredibly incredibly untrustworthy and will already decrease the low morale of my district.
You can't just say there's nothing to fear from the census when people in this very committee fear it already.
It is as simple as this. This question is unacceptable on the decennial census and should be removed completely from the short form. It should, our bill or resolution, the goal is to prevent any question involving citizenship, nationality, or immigration status. Due to the fact that many Americans are very insecure about this, and many Americans don't feel safe in answering this. We would like to encourage a very accurate census. However, we cannot do this when we are asking certain questions that surpass the insecurities of many of our citizens. Thank you. There are 15 Democrats in this room. I feel fairly confident that I can convince the Republican.
He would be giving an extension of residency to, and for how long? Because you touched on it, but it's very unclear. And would the extension, could that possibly be for years and maybe your whole life?
What we think though is that it should be until the conflict is resolved, because we don't want to say 2 years and 5 years later Uyghurs are still being oppressed.
Doesn't clause 11 already protect Uyghurs that are before status is applied?
Well, it says it expedites their asylum claims, so it will be faster. But this is just something that's solid. They can stay in the country. They're protected until their asylum case is heard. So this will kind of make sure that they feel safe in our country.
We will now try and show the bill. Okay, it should be displayed now if you want to read it.
It fixed everything that you wanted us to fix, and it grants all ethnic minority, Turkish Muslims and Uyghurs the chance to have refugee in the United States, while also allowing them to stay for as long as they want. Thank you.
In Clause 2, it states that the House of Foreign Affairs will decide when the Uyghur and Turkish Muslims population should return to Xinjiang after the conflict is over. But then in 4, it says they have the option to remain in the U.S. This bill is completely contradictory and just therefore does not make any sense.
But we can't necessarily put sanctions on something that would make China our worst enemy. We have to think tactfully about this. I don't think we should put sanctions on education or technology, because they are our partners in both of those categories.
We must levy sanctions against the companies that are specifically funding these camps.
Yeah, I'm opposed.
Motion clearly passes.
What happened?
We'll now introduce Bill HR.
I can see that you guys are removing the questions involving your immigration status, but you guys are still keeping status and nationality. So my question is, how will you get useful information out of this when so many people won't answer?
Usually when people lie, they fear something. So what would, if they're answering a U.S. Question of their nationality, what would they have to fear by saying, yes, I'm born in the United States?
For example, if some illegal immigrants are not comfortable in answering no, not a U.S. citizen, they have the choice to choose prefer not to answer.
See, the problem with what the Democrats are proposing and removing this is that you're removing the possible gain that could be achieved, and instead just going all negative. We need to understand that the prefer not to answer option won't be treated as an option that essentially says, yes, I am an illegal immigrant. It will just mean I don't want my answer to get counted. This is simply just a way to gain more data while pleasing members of both parties and making sure that we can reach a peaceful compromise.
Why would American citizens prefer not to answer? They have nothing to fear. So if the government's looking at these forms and they see someone that says prefer not to answer, we can assume that we're from an immigrant.
This motion clearly passes. We are now in voting procedure. The doors are locked and the windows are closed. Nobody can leave the room. Now, would the sponsors of the bill please come up to the front of the room?
HR Bill 9999 to amend Title 13 of the United States Code and prohibit the question of citizenship status on the short form of the United States decennial census. Preambulatory clauses. 1. Ensures full participation in the United States decennial census. 2. Recognizes that some immigrants may be untrustworthy of the government with their citizenship data.
So, what reason would Republicans have to vote for this bill?
This bill allows the census to be even more accurate. People feel even safer knowing that their information will not be shared or given to any other forms of government.
This is four.
So this is
This is the one. This is the second.
All opposed? This passes. We are now in voting block.
Penalizing oppression is an amazing amendment. First of all, it is future-proof. And in addition, this is essentially a boycott on labor camp products entering the U.S., which obviously we need to stop because we don't want to further encourage the oppression of Uyghurs when they are doing manual labor in re-education camps.
We are saying that it won't be seen in the House Foreign Affairs Committee. It'll only be decided by the President and the Secretary of State, which means that the committee will have no choice in this, and this will only be decided by two people. Thank you.
Okay. We have heard pro and cons speakers for penalizing oppression. We are all in favor of passing penalizing oppression. Please raise your placards now. This clearly fails. All right, delegates, please raise your placards high if you vote yes for the for this amendment.
This clearly passes.
Nice job, Sergey.
The issue with this bill is that it is not targeting Chinese companies, it is targeting our companies. It is targeting American business. This is not a sanction against China. Far from it. This is a sanction against us. Why would we sanction against our own companies? Thank you.
All in favor for this amendment, please raise your placards now.
Sergey, no. Sergey.
They are too.
Sergey, no.
No crosstalk, delegate.
Going to
No crosstalk, delegate. All opposed?
Come on.
This amendment fails. Clapping is not in order.
Replaces the secretary should consider with the secretary will in clause 6. We'll have one co-speaker, Representative Kisner.
This bill is condemning the Chinese people for their actions, and we are putting on the sanctions that they deserve. And I believe that is all I need to say to persuade your vote.
It's a waste of time, places a few words. Vote no, no matter who you support.
We'll now vote. All those in favor.
Yeah.
Raise them high, delegates. All opposed?
Strongly opposed.
Wait. All those abstaining.
This clearly passes.
Yeah.
This is a horrible to vote on the bill as a whole with the amendments. All those in favor of the bill. Ladies and gentlemen. All those opposed to the bill.
All those abstaining from the bill.
Are you sure?
After all of
Now we will vote on the bill itself. All those in favor of the bill, please raise your placards now. High above your head if you want the bill to pass. All those opposed, please raise your placards now. This bill passes.
We had 20.
The chair would now file upon a motion to adjourn debate. Are there any points or motions on the floor at this time? Representative Norton.
Motion to close the debate.
Adjourn debate. That is in order. All those in favor of this motion.
Motion. Wait, I got motion.
All those in favor of this motion, please raise your placards now. All those in favor of adjourning debate, please raise your placards now.
All in favor, raise your flags now.
All for pro.
All those opposed.
This is